Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Kind of continuing the conversation that I had last night with you all, and last evening's video was talking, about the food crisis, global food crisis that they're telling us that we're having, which it probably is because they're controlling it, they're orchestrating it. They're the man behind the curtain causing it all to happen. And it's going to not just cause food to be more expensive and to be less readily available, but could very well cause a lot of problems in developing nations, could spur massive migration that we've already seen. Refugees all over the world, hundreds of millions. We've already had well over 100 million refugees spread around the world just in the last couple of years. And that's just going to continue to get worse. And that's part of their plan. These World Economic Forum, United Nations, Illuminati, Bilderberg, elitists, that's what they want. Well, we're seeing that also here in the United States with just the death spiral that we're in right now when it comes to debt, when it comes to food, when it comes to just the stability of our system. We're watching, I was looking yesterday at how many. And I think sometimes we get, I don't know, we lose focus of this because something big happens and then we kind of forget about it for a while. But there's been numerous major train wrecks, derailments, buildings catch fire, factories burning, a paint factory, a plastic factory, all of this stuff happening just in the last couple of weeks. A lot of stuff going on. And it's, if we aren't at that point yet, I think we are. But if we're not, we're certainly drawing very, very close to hitting that kind of point of no return death spiral where it's just going to, start snowballing. And we may already be there, but if not, I'd say we're pretty close. The debt in the United States is just, it's horrible. I mean, and it's even the experts out there that aren't the ones that typically, screamed from the rooftops how bad things are. They're even putting out some warnings. In fact, the United States just this past week, our credit rating as a nation was reduced down because of the amount of piling debt that we're incurring. We're now going through about $1 trillion in additional debt every quarter, meaning every quarter this country, as a government, is borrowing an additional $1 trillion each quarter. So $4 trillion a year additional debt than what we've been spending. We're now at a point that our interest, just the interest alone on the United States government's debt is $1 trillion a year, $1 trillion a year in interest. Personal credit card debt, that's mine, yours, and everybody else's, is at $1 trillion for the first time ever. $1 trillion in private credit card debt. These kind of numbers are just, they kind of blow your mind. And in one way that's true. And the other way, I think we see this number 1 trillion thrown out there so often that, we just, it's another $1 trillion. Except most people just can't even fathom what $1 trillion is, how much money that is, how much, there's no limit. I don't know that an average person, even if they tried really hard, could spend $1 trillion in an entire lifetime. It's an absolute, boggles the mind kind of amount of money. We've sent 60-some billion dollars over to Ukraine so far since the war started, and it's not stopping. It's just there's debt everywhere. And it's like, who cares? That's just what we are now. We're a debtor nation, and that's what helps our dollar be strong. Except it doesn't. It doesn't help our dollar. It doesn't help our economy. Median housing. This is like the average median housing prices are now 560% over and above the average wage in the United States. Here's a chart here. This goes back to like 1982, 1984, and you can see the very steady rise up to the point that it's now that very few people in America can actually even afford, some of the recent numbers to purchase an average home in America, you're going to have to make somewhere between $117,000 and $120,000 a year. It's about 75% of all the homes in America are priced out too high above the average household. We're seeing this whole "you'll own nothing and be happy" kind of start to play out before us, right? You know, the whole World Economic Forum, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy because we're telling you to. Here we have an economy failing, we have a dollar collapsing, BRICS is meeting this month, and already they've established that between the countries in BRICS that they will no longer use US dollars. This is actually a very big deal because there's some pretty notable countries becoming part of BRICS. Mexico is joining, most of South America is joining, and they are agreeing amongst the BRICS nations that they will not be using the US dollar as inter-nation trading. Now, this is just setting up, of course, them to have their own currency because, you know, it's going to get confusing if Venezuela is trading with, you know, China, and then which country and which currency and the difference in value. So for them establishing a unified currency makes sense since they're no longer using the US dollar, which, again, that's a big deal. There's a lot of countries there. We're talking well over 20 now countries that are going to be part of BRICS, and more wanting to join. 40 or so more that's indicated that they want to join. So you're talking a very large block of the world that is walking away from the US dollar. This, of course, is just going to continue to exacerbate things. It's just going to make things worse. And you know, all the experts are like, well, you know, yeah, it's probably going to hurt a little bit, but we'll be able to make it work. You know, I know that the dollar will probably just start losing gradually over years. It could be much more than just gradual, especially with the United States just pouring itself into a debt that it can never ever pay. So we're at a point now where money and debt either mean nothing because we can't pay it anymore. You know, there's no possible way we could ever pay off our debt, and it's especially at the rate of we're going into, the rate of debt that we're going into. So we either have to say that debt no longer means anything, and so we'll just go into debt. You know, let's just print trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. Let's go into debt $5 trillion a quarter. How about $10 trillion a quarter? Because once something means nothing, you just go hog wild, right? Or the other option is, which will completely devalue everything, or the other option is to say, you know what, we're at a point that we can't pay this off. We have to crash the current currency and then, you know, unveil a new currency, some kind of CBDC or, you know, some type of global currency, because the US dollar has just, well, it's too far gone. That's going to be a situation that I suspect we'll see, one of those types of situations eventually, because you can't just keep doing this. It's illogical. It's not natural. No one in the world thinks that it's okay to just go into this level of debt, especially when you look at the United States and see that we are not the production powerhouse that we once were. We are not the militarily powerhouse that we once were. It doesn't mean that we're absolutely weak and destroyed. It just means that we've passed our peak, and the rest of the world sees that. And so they see that, well, we're past our peak, and yet we're now spending more and more money and expecting the rest of the world to acknowledge that. This is not going to work very long. At some point, we're going to start really seeing big chunks of that dam falling off, and then that tidal wave will come through. Other things that kind of coincide with this that I was talking about yesterday also is the food. We're watching food production take major hits between the droughts, between wars that are affecting it around the world, the distribution of food. Here in the United States, we're having a lot of problems. I don't know that we would say super major problems, but certainly problems. Just this morning, Smithfield, which is the Chinese company that owns most all the pork production in the United States, have announced that they're shutting down 35 pig farms. That they're shutting them down, and if you read, they're saying it's because of the reduction of people buying food. People don't have enough money to be buying meat anymore, which is really strange because pork is kind of the cheapest of the meat, and so if people can't even afford to buy pork anymore, I mean, we don't eat it, but you know, if people can't afford to buy pork anymore, then you know times are tough. And they're saying that they're shutting down 35 farms, pork production facilities, because you know, the economy, it's hurting things. Tyson is doing the same with chicken plants. They're shutting down 4 chicken plants. So, you know, for the same reason, both companies are laying off people. This is just a sign of the times, folks, where, you know, we're watching meat production slow down. Whether it's a natural thing just because of the economy, or it's being purposefully done to reduce the amount of meat that's out there, because that's what all the expert, you know, these globalist leaders, they don't want you eating meat anymore. They want you to eat the bugs. But who knows which one it is? The fact is that it's happening. We're going to watch prices of meat probably skyrocket even more. The availability less. That we're seeing this all across the board, and in most all foods, taking this hit, and people need to wake up and realize it, because it's like you're watching it's like you're watching a train wreck in slow motion. You know it's going to happen. You just don't want to believe that it's going to happen right now, right then. But it is happening, and we have to prepare ourselves for it, and stop with sticking our head in the sand and saying, well, you know, it's not that bad. I mean, you know, you're on here talking about the end of the world. I mean, the world hasn't ended. No, I'm not saying that it has. I'm trying to warn you ahead of time. I'm trying to show you that there's all these things that are happening. These are very serious signs and serious indicators that things are going to be darker and darker ahead in the future, and that we have to take precautions now. We have to get ourselves ready now, because you don't want to wait till it's too late to try to get ready. That's not a good idea. That's not a good plan. So has the world ended yet? No, but the world is going to end at some point in the future, and the time between now and then is going to be pretty rough as it just worsens and worsens, and that's why you need to be preparing and getting your houses in order, preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.